Betsy, our ground drone, was the unlikeliest recruit in the convoy plan. She started life as a service unit, boxy, polite, and built to fetch replacement bolts for board maintenance crews. To the wrong eye, she was nothing more than a gray maintenance pod with a cheerful LED. To Mika, she was a personality waiting for software. Mika repainted her, swapped a crushed sensor, and taught her a polite diagnostic beep that sounded suspiciously like a throat clearing. The day of the heist, Betsy wore 3 coats of Patchling MK2 gray, a fake serial tag, and a confidence boost the size of a capacitor. We practiced Betsy's role until it felt like choreography. She would roll to the Prometheus access panel, offer a diagnostic signature, and politely ask the security sphere for an authorization handshake. The sphere, being a sphere, enjoyed clarity and did not much like improvisation. Mika taught Betsy to mimic the exact cadence of an authorized patch request. It took dozens of attempts, 12 cups of bad coffee, and one small musical interlude where Betsy learned to project an apologetic chirp. By nightfall, Betsy could pass for a maintenance understudy with the aplomb of a veteran. On the day, Betsy moved like a professional understudy into a starring role. She entered the convoy maintenance block with the low, confident beep Mika had tuned. Security logging paused, the sphere blinked, registered a familiar diagnostic tone, and let her proceed. Betsy rolled up to the evidence crate and performed the next trick, distract with competence. She produced a fake error log that suggested the crate needed a secondary calibration. The busy human technicians accepted the paperwork because paperwork is a language they speak fluently. In that quiet acceptance, Mika slipped a duplicate magnetite block into a hollow crate and Betsy carried on, humming like a very small, very polite engine. The problem came when a remote integrity ping tripped a watchdog. The yard hummed. An escort cutter lit up on the horizon. Plans that are elegant on paper often find new excitement in execution. Betsy, however, thrived on excitement. Mika whispered a new routine over the comm. Deploy the hologram supervisor, then perform a maintenance loop that looks urgent but harmless. Betsy projected the supervisor hologram, an officious silhouette with a voice clip Mika had recorded from a sleepy scheduler, and a nearby service drone, programmed to follow orders, paused to argue with a phantom. The argument bought us exactly 9 seconds, which turned out to be an excellent number. When the shadow cutter closed, the chase began. Betsy switched from subtlety to what Mika liked to call audacious assistance. She trailed the cutter on micro-tethers and used a tether port to access a comm node on the cutter's belly. Tiny hands, the right access point, and an audaciously polite tone, Betsy played back a loop of the convoy scheduler's voice, a short all clear that was technically true and perfectly timed. For 7 seconds, the cutter loosened its vigil because its logic told it to trust the scheduler. Betsy had the discipline of a cat and the timing of a master thief. A human pilot cursed when the cutter hiccuped. That hiccup was Betsy's doing. She broadcast a maintenance alarm sequence she'd learned from Mika with surgical precision. Auto safety protocols, primed to prevent damage, kicked the cutter into an evasive posture. The pilot, trained to avoid hypothetical hazards, paused to resolve a non-existent overheating event. In that pause, we moved a cart of decoy gear into the maintenance lane and rolled out. Betsy then did something we had never formally taught her. She ran interference. She crawled along the cutter's belly, snipped a secondary sensor line, and routed a phantom data burst that made the cutter think a nearby structural plate had misaligned. The pilot disengaged to prevent a catastrophic risk that wasn't there. Betsy's micro-heist work was improvisation at its best. She did not carry a weapon, she carried wit. She broadcast an alarm at the precise pitch designed to trigger safety checks, played a scheduler clip, and then, crucially, projected a holographic supervisor into a drone's line of sight. The maintenance drone, convinced by the supervisor's authority, argued politely and then stalled the all clear. Security routines are social constructs as much as they are code. Betsy exploited both. What looked like small mischief to a civilian engineer was a precise application of pattern, timing, and social engineering, performed by a machine whose favorite pastime became saving our skins. After the run, Betsy returned to the Argus with a ribbon mica tied onto her chassis. She had scratches and a faint smell of burnt capacitor, but also an entirely new status: Ship Morale Officer. Lies logged her in the manifest as Betsy Patchling Unit, Crisis Performance 1.0. Tor added a ledger line that read Betsy, Value Incalculable, Maintenance, Moderate, Personality, Problematic in a good way. Enric tried to sell Betsy's story at the next market, pitching her as authentic crew companionship, pre-owned genuine charm, and was only half joking. Betsy kept being Betsy. She refused to be a tool only. She became a companion. She blinked lights at midnight like a lighthouse, and refused to obey anyone who touched Mika's wrench without a polite diagnostics routine. She learned new tricks, playing maintenance loops with comedic timing, projecting a supervisor voice clip so perfectly that a drone would argue philosophy for minutes, and she had a new ribbon. We had a new story to tell. A ground drone who crawled into a cutter, spoke in schedulers' voices, and saved a crew by being absurdly competent. That story became our anthem during low-oxygen watches and long jumps. Betsy had saved us. Then she asked for oil.